As I was walking through this abandoned furniture factory, I couldn't help but wonder how many people still have a piece of Lane furniture somewhere in their home, and how many people have seen one of these. How could a place like this, that had such an impact on millions of lives, end in such tragedy? This is the story of perhaps one of the most successful 70-plus year marketing campaigns in American history, and the product was specifically for women. I've worked on many Lane furniture pieces over the years, and so when I was recently invited to visit this abandoned furniture factory, I knew that I had to go.
Welcome to Roanoke, where the local time is 1:08. Please remain seated with your seatbelt securely fastened until the seatbelt sign is turned off.
I knew in a small town like Alta Vista that an old furniture factory couldn't be too difficult to find, and when I finally arrived, there was no mistaking the fact that this was the abandoned furniture factory I was looking for. As I walked around in some areas, I realized that there wasn't much left of this place compared to what it once was, but as I stood there for the first time, there was a brief moment that felt almost magical. There was still so much more of this place to see, but the question was, how could I get people to understand just what I felt on that day? So why would a video like this be a dedication to all the mothers out there? I would imagine there are some who think that I'm overreacting by describing this entire experience as magical. Although I have a tremendous amount of respect for the men and women who built a furniture factory of this magnitude, the real story is about the millions of women who would purchase this furniture with the hopes of having a home of their own one day and raising a family. This is a miniature Lane hope chest made from cedar. Millions of these were made from the 1920s all the way through the 1990s as part of the Lane Girl Graduate Program. As luck would have it, a viewer of my channel recently reached out to me. His name is Chad, and he has been a longtime collector of these miniature boxes. He has spent years putting together a website, lanecedarbox.com, for anyone looking for more information about the Lane Furniture Company and these miniature boxes. His website was the main resource for most of the information in this video. However, there were a few more individuals who had a tremendous impact on the direction of this video. I'll share more on that in a moment, but back to the Girl Graduate Plan. In 1912, John Lane purchased a small box company in Alta Vista, Virginia for $500. He put his son, Ed Lane, in charge of the factory that was first known as the Standard Red Cedar Chest Company. It's my understanding that the Girl Graduate Plan was first introduced in 1930 and was primarily the vision of the Lane sales manager at the time, J. Arthur Krause. This information comes from a book titled A History of the Lane Company, The First 50 Years, and the author was Helen Hughes Lane. There's a lot of information out there, but the general idea is that a young woman who was preparing to graduate high school would be offered one of these free miniature chests at a local furniture store. It was certainly a different time when you consider that a young woman graduating high school was asked whether she was engaged to be married. To receive her free gift, she would typically go into the local furniture store with her parents and would be introduced to more Lane furniture, specifically a Lane hope chest. You see, the idea was that she would receive this as a graduation gift, either from her parents or eventually a fiancé. It was a hope chest where she would be able to keep some of her most valuable possessions. This cedar chest is an exceptional example of a hope chest that was manufactured during the 1960s. This was part of a line of furniture that was arguably one of the most iconic designs from the Lane Furniture Factory, the Lane Acclaim series. It was that furniture style with the notorious dovetail designs, as seen. Manufacturing date July 22nd of 1964. Now, during my time in Alta Vista, I picked up this Lane cedar chest that was listed on Facebook Marketplace. The two ladies who were selling the furniture were sisters. The home had belonged to their parents, both of whom had worked at the Lane Furniture Factory. It was a pleasant conversation, and I was thrilled when they showed me a complete Lane Acclaim bedroom set purchased by their parents in the 1960s. Now, as I continued exploring this abandoned furniture factory, there were obvious signs of vandalism, as you would probably expect. And I'm also aware of other activities that are often associated with abandoned buildings like this, especially when you consider that a major rail line runs right through this property. So I decided to take my time to look around, since this would probably be my only opportunity to see this factory. A place like this may not be open to the public, so I wouldn't advise anyone to plan a road trip anytime soon. However, I can't imagine too many people stopping you from seeing a place like this. The Lane Furniture Company was purchased by United Furniture Industries many years ago, and all the operations were moved to a different location, so these buildings have been abandoned for many years. I can't say for sure, but my best guess is that some of the items that are still in these buildings were from other businesses that occupy this space long after Lane Furniture had left. My question for you is, if you had made it this far, would you go in? Surprisingly, it gets much worse than this, as you'll see. Now, it may be obvious to some that I'm working on two different projects in two different locations. I found this miniature hope chest for $3 at a thrift store recently. I decided to refinish it since at the moment this one has no sentimental value to me. For more than 70 years, the Lane Furniture Company made millions of these miniature cedar boxes. And in the final years of their production in the 1990s, these boxes were often made from pine. Most of these boxes were finished using a tinted or colored lacquer. Because this was red cedar, the lighter color in the wood grain would often appear to be pink. So by using a colored lacquer, most of these so-called imperfections would be concealed. Somewhere in your house, you may have one of these old hope chests that you inherited from your mother or your grandmother, or perhaps you were even the original owner. And it might be considered to be in good condition. All it needs is a simple polish. So if that's the case, you may consider using Oz Furniture Polish. It's a Mohawk product, and it's one of the best products I've found on the market. You can use a microfiber cloth to polish both the furniture and the hardware, and if there's minor wear and tear or minor scratches, you can also use fine steel wool. What I'm about to say next may potentially be controversial. There has been, without a doubt, dark times in our nation's history, and as it relates to women specifically, I would imagine that some would frown on even the idea that a marketing campaign would suggest that a woman was to become a housewife. So I picked up the phone and called the one person that I thought might have better insight. I'm sure there are many incredible men and women who helped build these hope chests. But what about the incredible women who raised these families and created the memories that surround these chests for sometimes 70 or 80 years? I sat down with my mother and I called my grandmother, who is now in her 90s. I asked her about that old cedar chest that sits in the hallway just past the living area. She received that old cedar chest in 1948 as a Christmas gift from my late grandfather, whose name was eventually passed on to me. He had recently returned home from World War II, and the gift was a promise that they would one day be married. In 1949 they were engaged, and in 1950 they were married, and soon after they built their first home together, no larger than the size of a 2-car garage. That old cedar chest was part of their first home, and it was a place where she would keep some of the baby clothes from her 4 children. Years later she would work outside of the home, but she explained that being a housewife and a mother was one of her greatest joys. They were married for 48 years and 4 months before my grandfather passed. My mother also had a hope chest, and whenever I see it, I'll always be reminded of her love and support for her family. I know some who are watching this video who have lost their mother much sooner than they should have. In one sense, the things around us are just things, but they also are reminders of the memories that we have with the ones we've lost. So as the years pass, those miniature cedar boxes, or those hope chests, soon become what some have called a memory box. You see, the reason that I say that this box specifically has no sentimental value to me is that I have the box that belonged to my mother. And inside I keep some family photos as well as other special items that one might keep in a box this size. I recently asked many of you through my YouTube community page to share some of your own memories as they relate to these miniature boxes and the hope chest, but more on that in a moment. I've been using this hard wax oil finish a lot lately, and for good reason. I've been trying to use it as much as possible on different wood species to see how I like it. I discuss in many of my other videos how to apply this finish, so I won't do that in the video for today. Welcome to Mad City Modern. My name is Barry, and if you're new to the channel, then I have something that you might be interested in at the end of this video. And for those of you who have been watching my channel for a while, thank you for all your support. I usually take this time to ask for your follows on social media like Instagram and Facebook, or for your subscription to the channel if you feel that I've earned it. Subscribing to the channel is free, and it just gives you updates regarding new content on my channel. What I wish for more than anything is for you to take a moment and perhaps share a memory of your own in the comments section of this video. It's often difficult for me to reply to the thousands of comments on the channel, but I assure you that I do read all of them, and if you do see a thumbs up, you know that I've read your message. I look forward to reading all of your stories in the comments, and I'm sure others will as well. It will be interesting to see if some of you recognize one of the first places I visited when I landed in Virginia. If you haven't seen it already, I'll be linking a cedar chest restoration video on my channel at the end of this video. It's the story that inspired me to create today's video. And to all the mothers out there, you're the best. Thanks for all you do. Goodbye for now. I mentioned at the beginning of this video that this story ends in tragedy. In November of 2022, just 2 days before Thanksgiving, United Furniture Industries, the parent company to Lane Furniture Company, shut its doors permanently, laying off all of its 2,700 employees. Although under completely different management, who could have ever imagined that a family-owned business that was built around a simple hope chest and family would eventually leave hundreds of families abandoned?